O labing makagagahom nga amay namon sa langit, mahinuklugon nga laon nga tagtugas ang langit, hangin, kalayo, tubig kag duta. Tanda ining imong timawa, kabay ining pag-ampo, magadulot sa amon sang kabuhi nga himaya. Salamat sa mga bugay nga imo ginpaambit sa amon. Salamat sa kabuhi nga ginadulot mo sa amon nga himpit. Salamat sa maayo nga panahon kag ilabi na gid sang imo katutom sa amon. Bendisyon ni ang imo katawhan. Bendisyon ni ang ila mga palangabuhian. Bendisyon ni ang mga panggas sa amon mga talamnan. Bendisyon ni ang ilang nga paglugayawan sa iban nga kapungsuran. Kabay makalabot sila nga walay sablag sa ila pagapadulungan. Kag ilabi na gid, bendisyon ni ining isla sang Negros nga amon natawhan. Kinahalad namon ang ining pag-ampo para sa imo kadayawan.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our last month for the virtual conference 2 of the Visayas Islands Visual Arts Exhibition and Conference. Here, hosted by the Visayas Island Viva XCon Organization Incorporated in Bacolod City. This is the longest running biennial, artist-run biennial event in the country, in the Philippines. And welcome all to for today's event, today's webinar. But before we proceed, I would like to give a little background on our VCon, our virtual conference. The theme of our conference and this Viva XCon is Dason, or What Now? It is in keeping with future studies, which postulates possible, probable, and preferable futures and the worldviews and myths that underlie them. What Now, or the Soon, seeks to understand the context and circumstance of art community in relation to the sectors of the community it coexists with, what is likely to continue, and what could plausibly change. So welcome for today's webinar, which will feature lockdown art. No, We call it Saturday. Now, this is June 2021. We've been running VCon since VCon 1. We started last November. And for how many months we've been running this every Saturday? If not, there's at least every month we have like three webinars, featuring different topics, featuring artists of the Visayas, featuring activities of the artists also, and cultural workers. Even we are in this difficult situation, the pandemic, But today, June 5, we have our topic for today is lockdown art, and we are featuring Mark Salvatos. I would like to introduce the moderator for today's webinar. Vincent finished her fine arts painting degree at La Consolacion College, Bacolod, as magna cum laude. In 2017, she became an awardee of the 10 Outstanding Students of the Philippines in Western Visayas. Vincent was a speaker on art therapy, art for everyone, in SM City, Bacolod City, 2017. She was also a former instructor in La Consolacion College, Bacolod, SARFADE, and senior high school departments, 2017 to 2020, and one of the institution's 10 centennial artists. Vincent was a 2018 Mascara Festival trophy designer. Her 2016 group shows include Secret Orange and Art of Giving at Orange Project, as well as Reclusion Perpetua at House of Frida. In 2017, she joined the 8th International Arts Festival at Tamawan Village in Baguio City as one of the exhibiting artists. Her more recent show is Project Puerta 2020. I saw this. It's an installation at Art District in Bacolod City. Taking active role in community development and early childhood and youth education, she is an honorable member of the Pag-asa Youth Association of the Philippines and runs annual children's art workshops in partnership with La Carlota City Library. Vincent is currently working with our organization, Viva XCon 2020-2021 Conference Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Vincent Sarnate. Vincent?
Hi, mayang aga.
Morning.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Sir Manny. A blessed morning to our speaker, guests, audiences in the meeting room and on YouTube Live, and to the Viva XCon team. I am Vincent Sarnate, moderator for today's session. It has been nearly 450 days since the national lockdown, and artists have employed as much or even more ways to thrive despite bounds. Art that demands physical spaces, mobility, and mass interaction gradually migrated to virtual platforms with even deeper scope and wider reach. With gallery visits regulated and exhibitions prematurely closed, homes and studios were upgraded to galleries. In the new revolution of contemporary art, it is imperative for artists to employ practices that will outlast physical restraints, global health crisis, or periods of creative lockdown. We are joined by Lode Navito's co-founder, Mr. Mark Salvatus, as he takes works, projects, and innovations in and beyond walls in today's session, Lockdown Art. I will introduce our speaker. Mark Salvatus is a contemporary artist living and working in Manila, Philippines. He studied advertising at University of Santo Tomas, Manila, and since 2006 has produced his artistic projects as salvage projects working across various disciplines and media. Recent exhibitions include A Life Beyond Boundaries, The Geography of Belonging, JWD Art Space in Bangkok, Errant Life, Promiscuous Forms, Gravity Space Manila, Notes for Tomorrow, Independent Curators International, ICI Traveling Exhibition, We Are Going to Have to Live Outside, Vargas Museum Manila. All of these are in 2021. Between the Sun and the Moon, Second Lahore Biennale 2020, Transient Museum of a Thousand Conversations, ISCP New York, An Entry into a Creature, From Social Sculpture to Platform Capitalism, Kunstram Kozba Bitanien, Berlin, Germany in 2020. He had residencies in Asia Culture Center, ACC Gwangju, South Korea, Rijksakademie Amsterdam, the Netherlands, IASPIS Umeå, Sweden, Art Omi, New York, Koganecho, Yokohama, and Goyang Art Studio in South Korea. Mark was a visiting artist at University of Colorado Boulder Art and Art History Department. Together with Mayumi Hirano, they founded Load Nandito Projects in 2016, an artistic and research initiative that explores various modes of producing and presenting contemporary art by organizing and co-organizing a wide range of programs. Let us all welcome Mr. Mark Salvatus. Hi, sir. Good morning po.
Thank you, Vin. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to the Viva XCon team, to Manny, Jade, Ida, and and Vin. We have been talking for the last few weeks, and finally it's happening now. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So let me share my slide. Yeah. So when the Viva XCon team messaged me about this talk, about what will I present or what the talk is about, it's about lockdown art. And I thought of presenting only one project. And during the lockdown since last year in March 2020, the first few months of the lockdown is very stagnant. I mean, that's the time where everyone is anxious of what will happen, and things becomes very slow, and many people got anxious of what will be the future. Especially, of course, everyone is locked inside their homes, and the mobility is limited, and meeting people is also restricted because of this pandemic happened. So maybe just a quick overview of how this happened. This project of home exhibition for UOG. I think during the first few months of the lockdown to last year, March, April, I didn't do anything. I mean, I didn't produce any artwork because I think it's the time for me to reflect also on what I have been doing in the past few years. And the idea of making is maybe the idea of making is also going back for me and picking up things from the time we are facing now. So maybe I'll just show you a little bit. So a little bit of background also about what Vin told you about. I've been producing salvage projects, or I've been calling my projects since 2006 salvage projects. And I just quickly type in the word salvage from Google, and it's the act of rescuing stuff from a disaster, like a shipwreck. but also in the context of Philippine vernacular term, salvage is also about to kill or extrajudicial killing. So I'm interested on this two way of how you develop meaning or how you contextualize a word. Salvage is to rescue, but in Philippine context, salvage is to kill. So I'm interested on this kind of binary meaning making and also maybe creating some kind of nuances. And also salvage, my surname is Salvatus, and it's also the same meaning to save. And I work primarily with objects. Objects, as it Google says, it's a material thing that can be seen or touched. And I feel or I see we are experiencing or we experience life through objects. And everything we make also is we produce as object, even artwork as object. And this object represents our time and also our life, and it's an extension of our life. Like, for example, you hold that cell phone, it's your extension of your hand. If you wear your slipper, it's an extension of your feet. So I like this kind of like extension of life maybe through these objects. And meaning is of course it's a concept, it's an action to communicate. And this kind of communication also is to miscommunicate. So I'm interested on the nuances of meaning making that can be absurd, that can be very different from the original context. So yeah, I'm interested on that. And also energy. So aside also from meaning, energy is important in my work. Because if we talk about art making or presenting art, we kind of think of what's the meaning of this work. But for me, so energy is also important. Like you feel the energy you feel once you see the work or once you experience it in an art space. So energy also revolves or includes space. So I work a lot with installation also, and space is important in making an installation. And installation is like a extended sculpture, so you can kind of create the space as part of the experience of the total artwork. So energy means also transferring of energy, you transferring to the object or artwork, and also transferring the energy from the artwork or object to yourself. So I like this kind because energy is a connection, no? It's a series of connection. And then of course life. I'm interested on life as a whole. I mean, we are representing our existence now. So I think the number one discourse about now is how to live, because in this time of pandemic and different political turmoil, we need to survive, or we need to extend our life as much as possible to live. So in a condition, I'm interested also the condition because it's also connected to life. Like, what's the condition of the body? What's the condition of your life now? But it's also the surrounding place where you are living it. So the live condition. So I'm interested in how, as an artist, me living in Manila right now, but I'm originally from Lucban, Quezon. So I'm moving from one condition to another, I think. So the space or the surrounding space for my practice is very important. So it's the state. So how do we make art in this time, in this state of pandemic, of this transition? I don't know. So something like that. and ambiguous. So I'm interested on the not definite meaning. So the interpretation is open to different meanings. And because I work with visual language, and the visual language is, I want it to be open as much as possible. That creates, yeah, new maybe meaning, but not literally the main point. So yeah, the interpretation is, of course, the artist has its own interpretation, but the viewer has its own interpretation too, because we want people to, yeah, to create this kind of like discourse on on art as part of our everyday life, or art as part of survival. And yeah, so and anxiety also. So I'm the words that I'm showing to you is the most of the words that I experienced in the last few months during the lockdown. So this, I think, will develop in. I will show you the process that I did with my project home exhibition for Yoji. So being anxious is also part of how I work now. So yeah, maybe it's a natural response to stress. They said, of course, the Google says. So being anxious about things and the what's happening now, it's also maybe helpful in how to reflect back on how to make work. Because now we thought of what's the art making now in time of pandemic or post-pandemic. Does it change? That should we continue making the same artwork? But I think it's like this, being anxious is good, because we always ask question, what is art really, or what is art for? And of course, survival. And I've been talking a lot of uh, how to survive, or about survival in my artworks in the last few years. That's why I talk about salvage projects in my practice. So survival, again, is the extension of life. It's a condition you want to live longer, or to live, to continue. And I think during this lockdown is to continue, but we have to reflect back in how we things, or how we present artwork. And yeah, humor is one of the most important aspect in my practice also. And humor is also a form of survival, and humor is also very natural in humanity, maybe. And humor is an expression that has also a different meaning, maybe. So this is creating new ways of communication. It's creating a way to communicate, rather than directly saying the thing you want to say. And play, of course, play. And I'm interested on how Vin also, in her bio, she is working with youth and young people in her practice. And maybe later we can talk about that. And play is also very important in my practice. And when we think about play, we thought it's not serious. It's for children. It's for kids. But when kids play, they are serious. You think they are not doing serious stuff, but they are serious when they're playing. So I'm interested on how to present this in my practice. Play as a form of communication, but in a serious sense, and many layers of it. So yeah, so we will go to home exhibition for Yoji. And as I've told you, in the first few months of the lockdown, I didn't produce anything. I mean, when it was in March and Yoji was still in school in nursery, and everything was shut down. So his physical school was cut, and then eventually moved or shifted to online. And our household shifted to this form of living, so online thing, even Yoji's school and Yoji's activities. So March and April, Yoji still has class, and then during May, Yoji don't have class. And now during that time, he's hooked into his phone. And I think it's very natural because kids now, as I maybe notice with a lot of kids, they're also natural with this digital culture. They are native, so they are digital natives. So they experience things through digital or online. And that changed a lot of how they explore the world. And for me, it's not a bad thing, but I want to create some kind of balance because kids still cannot go out until now. No, it's a law during the pandemic that 15 years old below cannot go out. And now Yoji is 6, so 1 year of his childhood, like 5 years old up to 6, is gone. He cannot see the world. So, and he only see the digital world through his Roblox and Minecraft and everything. And but that's another world to explore. So during that time, I thought of maybe doing some activities for Yoji that can move away him from the digital, from online game and everything. So I eventually developed some kind of projects, of course, arts and crafts for Yoji, and creating some kind of like, communication and a play, a humor. And because we are both anxious of what's outside, it's the strict lockdown last year. So the limit is confined into the house, and the house become the microecology during that time and also this time, because the house becomes the new form of interaction. And of course you have the online thing. So I thought of, maybe I can do this because a routine can be helpful for Yoji to develop his intuition to the world, since we cannot go outside. So this is the first project or sculpture, I say, the home exhibition for Yoji that I presented to him. And this one is just vegetables that we bought from the palengke and presented to Yoji. So I'm interested on this, how everyday materials and presented to Yoji as maybe art in create some kind of like interaction. So the first home exhibition for Yoji object I entitled Lonely Cabby. So I just installed it inside the house and on the table. On the next day, I used the packaging material that is for cereal, but I asked him now, Yoji. I asked now Yoji what he thinks about this work. or I just installed it on the wall, and the project developed into kind of like criticism thing, something like that. So when I present it to Yoji, and Yoji will say just a gesture of he like it or not like it. So in a way, this developed a routine project that I presented every day, and I'm interested on this idea of the packaging and the materials that we see in the house, and installed it in the different spaces in the house. So this create an evidence of ongoing life. So objects as evidence of our life, and presented it to Yoji as my main audience. And then, so there's another reaction for that. So I'm interested on this kind of like routine, because also talking about how the pure consciousness of a kid, of a child, develop, especially when they're 5 to 6 years old, or 4, 5, 6, because on that age they still don't maybe recognize a full image body, or they cannot really create like a typical human figure. They still in a way abstract form. But when they now turn into grade 6, 6 years old, 7, they tend to develop now the body should be with hands, with arms, with everything, not stick man. So this kind of like practice also is in a way kind of like exploring the forms. So this is as a t-shirt, and of course he don't like it, so it becomes a game. So the project also becomes a game. And the another component of this, aside from putting it inside the house in different spaces around the house, I also put it online every day in my Instagram account. So there's 2 spaces that that developed through this project. And I'm interested also on this project as not as a reaction to the pandemic or a response to the pandemic, but it's what arises through this pandemic. Because reaction or responding is an immediate. It's like you have to take action. But with this home exhibition for Yoji, it's a slow process of what arises through this. Because as I've told you, I have a 2-month, 3 months of not doing anything, not making work. But this living condition arises, and with this living condition of lockdown, this prompt me to make this for Yoji, and also it develops into my artwork, should I say, using objects. So this is also packaging. A lot of my projects, the objects that's part of it is from packaging, from delivery, packaging, and it also reflects the time now where people are sending, usually sending stuff is very common now because of this online delivery system. And this also reflects or reveal the world now that we are consumerist. We we acquire a lot of things, even though it's a pandemic. It's a debris of our society. It's a life of our reality. And this one, Yoji don't know. I think the title of this is Tetris. Yeah, Tetris. And Yoji seems don't like it. And this is a floor installation from coins and headphones. And he seems like it. And a cell phone case with gloves. He seems like it. And another packaging. And I'm interested also on the idea of debris and packaging, because also packaging, as I mentioned, it reflects our consumerist life, and also it represents on how we tend to think that packaging, after we use it, we throw it away. And this the idea of discard na mga discarded things. And in the Spanish word, also this discard or descartes is discarte in Filipino. So we use this discarte. That's I read it from Patrick Flores writing about his exhibition in the 90s, that the discarte of Filipino discarte, the word discarte Filipino came from this discard, because Filipino use discarded materials, like when there's a flood, no, they use a plank of wood so they can walk from one place to another to avoid the flood. So this idea of discarded materials and discarte is interesting for me. So this one. And also, yeah, a lot of my practice also deals a lot of collecting and collection. So everywhere I go, I come back to the house with stuff, and sometimes I don't have space now to keep them. So I think that practice is also developed since I was a young child, I think, because my parents also collect stuff like antiques, and I see it growing. When I'm growing up, I see many things in the house as part of our everyday life. So I think this living with objects becomes part of my upbringing. And this is called No Ayuda. It's a kind of talking about the ayuda during the first few months of the lockdown, and installing just an empty rice sack and a chair. And it's interesting because before waking up, I already installed the work, and Yoji, once he wake up, he will see, oh wow, what's this? So it's kind of like a Christmas present every day. So this is growth, random packaging, cell phone case, vitamins packaging, and medicine packaging, and other stuff. And I think I found installed on the wall. And this is Chiquito sa upo and in Calamansi. I grew up in Lucban, Quezon, and Lucban, Quezon is famous for the Payas Festival. and it's a harvest festival every May. It's a summer festival where people decorate their houses with fruits and vegetable. So I kind of inspired with that because I grew up with that festival, and every May, my family and the community and then the local people celebrate it together. So I grew up also using. I grew up with this tradition of decorating the house with vegetables and fruits. So this is kind of like parang tuhog-tuhog with how my practice develops. So by using everyday materials and things that is readily available in your immediate environment, I use that as my art making. So this one. And for this project, because I also use a lot of ephemeral or materials that will be, ano, ang tawag dito? They will be rotten in a way, like for example, the vegetables. So the lifespan of this work are only maybe few hours, because after this, gigisahin na namin yung, yung upo. So the documentation, the photographs is important aspect also of the project. So that's why I also upload it on my Instagram account to create some documentation or archive. And also Yoji as the audience, but also he is for me performing. So as a performance type, as action, as his gesture becomes the act of, so the work created different layers of maybe making, like the performance, Yoji as audience, the documentation, the online as another space other than the house as a physical space. This is a Boracay Beach. T-shirt installed on the floor like this. The title is Exhausted. So I think this time everyone was exhausted and everyone wants to go to the beach. So I made this object wherein I really want to go to the beach. We want to go to the beach. And this time also is the time when I think the Manila Bay was they are feeling with the white sun. So in a way, it's like referencing also, but not like totally direct meaning or direct response to what's happening, but it's very open. So this is a watermelon. The title is Melancholic in a cup. This one. Okay. This one is Circus, everyday materials, tape, CDs, ring, installed here. And I'm also interested with the idea of portability or portable. So like the idea of assemblages, like you put things together. So you assemble things and it's not fixed. It's not permanently fixed. You can detach it. And it also reflects on how we live. We are unstable. We are not fixed. The idea of assembling is also idea with people, like assembly, like gathering of people. But now we cannot really gather. But this assemble thing is now being done online, like online meetings, online protests, online. It's the form of solidarity. But at the same time, this portability is, you can move to different places. That's why it's portable. In to assemble also, you move to different places. So this object is kind of referencing on this kind of like mobility and instability, but once you found a spot or a place where you can assemble things, it kind of create a new form of maybe position. So the idea of positioning, where to put also to the house, and the idea of position, what's your position in the society, something like that. So it's like eggs, and I use my wife's show. What's this? I don't know. It's like you put when it's cold. And of course, the eggs was being used after that. So yes, I told you the documentation is important. And another series of packaging. This one. This is another, yeah, on the wall as an assembling things. So I always use this railing, the railing from the stairs, because I think it's a good way to install things. It's a barong, and then Yoji again. It's another cardboard plane from a box. Another vegetable, and then after this we turn into what's that? Pinakbet, yeah. We turn into pinakbet. Another set of fruits, vegetables. Computer with painting. This one title is Scroll. Yeah, and he don't like it. Then I think in the just randomly show this one's packaging again. This is from a, what's the title of this? Paso. Paso. And this one's ABC. And slowly I'm trying to put some kind of like text or some kind of like readable thing, but this is not readable for Yoji. So it says ABC. So he don't like it, or I think he's confused. And buwan, so enero, febrero. And I put 2023 because that's the time I think we will go out freely. So he don't like. And this is wish wash, some kind of like talking about washing the hands now, but still very open. What kind? And kite, another packaging series. And this one, this was the 33rd artwork that I showed. And for this one, Yoji titled it. So he eventually titled the work. It's not anymore me who give the title. So I want to create some kind of like more interaction rather than thumbs up and thumbs down. And this creates more openness to him as a viewer, and also as the critic, as I should say. And his title for this is Pink, Black, and Green. It's very typical, very straightforward. And this one is, he titled it Corona. So it's a series, different spiky materials on a ikebana, you put the ikebana flower there. Then this one, Yoji entitled this Mask Paper. Well, very literal. I like it. Then this one, Yoji titled it Slippery. This one, Yoji titled it Bomb Trash. It's literally trash. And then another thing about uh, uh, using trash or everyday materials. There's a quote from Brenda Fajardo. She wrote it from I think 90s about aesthetic of poverty. And she said, how can artists claim to be socially responsible when he mounts high cost production during times of deprivation? So she's talking about the PETA, the theater group who use everyday and discarded materials as backdrop or as a stage design for play. So I'm interested on how she connects it on how artists use like less or like ingenuity comes when you don't have money or in times of crisis. So she's also questioning how our artists will should be called socially responsible if they make high cost production. So she said also cutting down expenses is not the main point, but I think the main point is to be aware of the surroundings you have. So I'm very much influenced on how she talked about it in the 90s. And using it in the context of PETA, the theater group. This is a cake web. I think the title of Yoji is Spider Web. And then this one, another phone. So we kind of start to go upstairs to the third floor. And then this is robot plants. I think this is one of his favorite because looks like robots. And then this titled San Roque. So because we live in a barangay called San Roque, so he thought this is like a map. But he don't like. So another packaging materials. Then I drew some lines. Packaging. And this one is Milky Spike, one of the biggest work I've done. It's milk boxes. This one is chicken phone. So this one is plant guitar. I don't know why. Yoji titled it plant guitar. So it's kind of I don't know how he sees this. It's really interesting how Yoji can see things very direct or straightforward or very literal, but sometimes it's very out of this context. This one is chocolate horse. I don't know why it becomes chocolate. And this is hot dog. This is something I don't know what's the title. And this is the last one, turning around. And it's a coconut in like a mask for riders. So for this project, I did 52 works every day. So this was all documented in my Instagram account with the hashtag home exhibition for Yoji. And it's interesting for me to create reactions in two spaces, like from the house, Yoji, and of course my wife is also here. So she is also a direct audience, and also the audience that the audience that have seen the work in my Instagram account. So this created some kind of like two not separated audiences, because now I think we live both online and physical, and that for me it's an interesting aspect that what happened during this time, that artists make work but also show in the online space as another space. But of course we cannot really experience the same what Yoji experienced, because he's the first hand audience and collaborator, I should say, because Yoji becomes part of the work also as an actor or as a performer. Yeah. Salamat po. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Mark.
Thank you.
It's actually true about what you said sa anxiety and exhaustion. Most people went through that, especially during the pandemic and the lockdown period. But I guess the difference between sa kanila and sa artists is that artists are able to channel it through works.
Yeah.
And of course, sir, what you said about energy plus life, it seems that the object, life is given to objects, and at the same time, the objects are also giving life to the concepts existing. And it also takes me back to the experiences I had during the lockdown as an artist. For now, we will begin with the open forum. And while we're at it, we'll keep an eye out for your questions from the Zoom chat and YouTube Live. For today's forum or discussion, it will be trifocal as we look into lockdown art in three lenses. We first have the artist, the work, and the viewer or the audience. For the artist, we focus on the artist, seeing that the nature of work is closely related to space. For the first question, sir, how would you define an ideal art space, or what is your concept of an ideal art space?
Wow, that's enough. I think there's different maybe aspect of art space. There's of course the art space where you produce work, wherein that's the studio, no? I mean, we call it art studio, not really space, but it's a space where you create and your ideas develop. And there's also the art space of where you produce, where you present your work. So that's the galleries, museums, like alternative art spaces. And also now there's online space, as a space where people view work, but of course the experience is totally different. But for me, the ideal art space is maybe where most people can see, like not only the art people who has knowledge about art, but also people who are the people who don't know maybe what is art really is. So it can be, I mean, this kind of art talk webinar is in a way art space already, because this, we don't maybe see art, but we kind of articulate what is art, and this, I think a good art space also is not only seeing artworks, but you interact with artists. So you talk with other artists, you develop things from there. So thinking about maybe physical art space, the like artist run spaces are good because it's detached to maybe the idea of market, but they are more into developing ideas together. Because in a way, like Viva XCon is not only a space, but it's an energy. So art energy maybe. So so
Yes.
because space is territorial, no. So but if you develop it as kind of like what you call this, uh it's like invisible thing, like the spirit of Viva XCon. So it's passed down to generation. So I think, yeah, we have to think of what is space is. But space can be also with people as your own body. So now we are sharing the space together. So
Yes. Yes, sir. It's insightful since we redefine what space is. Sometimes when you think about space, you will be imagining a building. But right
yeah.
now, any space that gives reception to concepts of art, ideas, conversations can be an
Mhm.
ideal art space. So thank you so much
Yes.
for that, sir. For we go to the work, we
Uh-huh.
proceed. To quote Juliet Aristides, in both historical studios and contemporary ateliers, the students who succeed are among those who have humility to learn their craft, enough ego to withstand criticism, and the ambition to persist against all odds. This is the next question. Were you able to use the physical limits of the pandemic to your advantage? Specifically, maybe the energy or the anxiety that you have, were you able to use it to your advantage during this pandemic?
Mm-mm. Yeah. I think, yeah, some, of course, some people, uh, being anxious is a negative thing, but I think it's also kind of like form of going back, that because we during the pre-COVID time, we are always thinking of uh, being productive. So we make. But during the lockdown and until now, productivity seems to be kind of parang it's becoming more like not looking into the life. What what I mean is like this kind of like introspection creates more meaning if you kind of stop, like to create some kind of like pause, but continuing the practice maybe in a good direction. So the anxiety or being anxious about what you don't know what's happening tomorrow is a good way for me to practice making work, because I think that's also the concept of art. You don't know what it is. I mean, of course, people in art history are defining art in the context of time, but as artists, we have to think more beyond what is being defined already. So we have to always question. Even I mean, we question our art making, we question the society. I think questioning is a form of creativity also, and this tends to a more maybe productive thinking, not only productive making. So yeah, I don't know if I answered that question.
Yes, sir. It's something. It's also a connection to the statement that introspection or reflection is also a good way of coping. And at the same time, art is not just defined by works also, but sometimes pause. little reflection about looking back on your works in the past, and then what you will do right now that the situation is like this. So it's also good for artists to realize that introspection and pause could also mean a productive time for them, could give a creative surge right after.
Yes.
Thank you for that answer. We reckon that Load na Dito, your project po, actively integrates mobility and public spaces originally. So kindly tell us more about this project with focus on recent significant changes due to the pandemic.
Yeah, so Load na Dito, Mayumi and I founded Load na Dito back in 2016. The idea also is not to have a physical space and to create projects, but to maybe inhabit or to create more connection with other spaces also, or with other organization or people. And Load na Dito also talks about mobility and also connection, because the word the concept of Load na Dito comes from loading, the loading of cell phone. And you can load from different amount of energy. I will call it energy again. So this kind of like loading is, you create this as a form of connection. So we are primarily online, and then during the pandemic, we did a series of projects also, like the Pasaload residency. So when we talk about residency, it must be in a physical space, no? I mean, artists should go to a place where they don't know and develop a new project, and that's a very important to experience for a young artist to do residency, because you tend to open up to different possibilities in a place you don't know. Like you go abroad to do residency or even in the province. But for the Pasaload residency, we did a online residency wherein the space is the Instagram account of Load na Dito. So the space becomes their own platform to create a project, or even just showing any ideas they want to do. So the Pasaload residency also changed the idea of a center. So there's no center anymore. So the artists we invited comes from like Dumaguete, from Cavite, from Manila. So, but it's because now online, the idea of center is blurred. So, and also the online Pasaload residency create context based, because they can only make, or they can make work that can be viewable online. So that's the limitation also. So, and I think the best part with this Pasaload residency, we come up with we invited 30 artists, and then at the end of the residency, we had a Zoom meeting with all the residents. So that's the only time they can meet each other. So I think and then it develops into a zine. So the zine also can be downloadable and is shared. It's free for everyone. So I think this kind of like shifting to physical to online, it has limitation, but it also creates more possibilities to connect. Yeah.
More connections and possibilities. And also there's this decentering of art as well. Do you consider the virtual space as a long-term platform for your art?
I think it's already being used for everyone. It's open, and of course, there's also the new NFT thing wherein digital artwork can be bought with this NFT currency. But for me, because I work a lot with physical objects, but also, of course, I work with videos and sound. But the idea of exhibition is still different if you see in the physical space, because it's how you kind of create this energy. And exhibition in a physical space creates community in a way. It creates togetherness. I mean, for example, if you are in a space seeing an exhibition with other people that you don't know, you feel together because you kind of feel this connection with the space and the artwork. So I think the virtual space will always be there as maybe it's not anymore a secondary place for artwork, but also it's can be the major place for artwork. But still, I'm interested on the physical space as a space for discourse or interaction, even though your audience is just one.
Thank you so much po. For the next question, this is about a projection in the future of the art community or the art itself. How do you see the development of art now that it seems to be a struggle to reach herd immunity?
Wow. So talking about what again?
The development of art now that it seems to be a struggle to reach herd immunity.
Well, it's hard for me to foresee the future, but I guess seeing many artists in the context of Philippines, that many artists are coming together and not anymore about their individual artworks, but creating a platform, creating projects together, collaborating, like um, like uh, like inviting, like this idea becomes it goes back to life again. So this kind of, for example, this kind of talk, like the series of talks of Viva XCon, and also the fundraising of other artists, even the pantry, and this becomes more real. The making life or creating life through an extension of art. So artists are more connected now, where for example with the different fundraising event for people, for different communities, especially in the first few months of the pandemic, and they have become more visible. Their actions become more visible than their artworks. So I think it's the community or art community becomes more close, even though physically not. So that's the very unusual. Before we can be physically connected, but it's not close. But now we are physically detached, but we are kind of more close because I think it's needed for us to talk, to catch up, and everything.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, art in the context of Philippines, I think it's developing, and I think it's creating new challenges also. But I saw a lot also of spaces being open during the lockdown. So it means that people wants to see art more, maybe, or
That's true, sir. It's really good that these spaces now are, we have the online space
Mm-mm.
and we have webinars as well, wherein we can have more concepts, ideas, and learnings about art. And at the same time, I wanted to cite that particular artwork you had in your home exhibition, the calendar. 2023 is your projected year that we will go back to normal. It's good that the art community and art itself is dynamic, and it goes with time. As an artist, we are chroniclers of time. We are writers of what we are experiencing in the moment, and also we are at times predicting what the future is like, based on the movement of things in the present. So thank you, sir. And we now
Thank
go
you.
to the third lens that we see here. We have your viewer or audience. This one is really significant for me as well. This takes me back to my childhood. So your exhibition for Yoji reminded me of my childhood home, where I could see my father's sculptures every day. So I never knew much about what my father really does or what sculpting really means, only that the act of creating something from scratch, or maybe the display, or as you phrased it earlier, positioning of things and artworks is in itself beautiful, interesting, and remarkable for the eyes of a child. So for most of my childhood days, I went on to playing with clay and making some figures myself. So it seems that Yoji also underwent a synonymous approach on art appreciation. So this proves that home exhibitions could effectively bridge generational and perceptional gaps in a household of creatives, and take on a significant role in nurturing young artists. So having said this, we ask, how can art be made appealing and compelling to young viewers?
Hmm. I think I think it's we tend to make work like I don't know, because maybe I will talk again about the idea of playfulness, and being playfulness is not like you just play like there's not serious, but I think the idea of playfulness is a very natural human act, because that's how you become more sensitive, I think, with the surroundings you are dealing with. And kids, I think, is the most sensitive I know, in their age, because they still don't know the big concept of life. I'm talking about maybe grade 5 years old, 6 year old, like Yoji, because I'm observing him, and I'm observing myself also, how I react with my son and our family. And I think the idea of how to be involved, or how to, for the young generation to be attracted to art, is to be a natural, ano, I don't know, because now I mean, thinking about when I was a child. So in my hometown in Lukban, we don't have museums or galleries. So my only exposure to art is our festival, the Pahiyas Festival. And for me, I didn't know, is this art or is this something grand? But it's part of our life. We display our produce like vegetables and fruits in front of our houses. And for me, it changed my perception on how creativity and art is, because I think that's very local in the context of Lokban. But if you talk about art, it's always painting or sculptures, and that's very Western context. And seeing the festival in my hometown, this can be installation also, because you put things in hanging, installed on the facade of the house. But the local people in my hometown have been doing it since the Spanish came. I mean, before the Spanish came, because it's a offering to the gods, parang ganon. So I think the idea of going back to local and looking to the local to get maybe inspiration from your art is a good way like that, because you will see how maybe honest or truthful you are if you know your own local, even your own local language, your local literature, your festival, and it becomes maybe more honest when you're making art. So yeah.
Thank you, po. From the audience, just curious on the effect of art collaboration on your son.
I think it's not naman child abuse or but I think it's interesting now that whenever he saw something, is this artwork? So he kind of developed now. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think now he kind of developed things or develop his views to be more, I mean, he's more, what you call this, meticulous, or when he sees something, is this artwork? Something like that. So I think this kind of, idea from a child's viewpoint is good, because it's the pure consciousness. He's still developing, but for him, this is maybe art. So this kind of like consciousness of how he see things, even from a trash, he see the value in it. So I think also because he is also learning online to the school, sometimes he don't like school, but he likes what we are doing, like more fun, physical. So I think part of the home exhibition for Yoji is also developing his skills to appreciate more, maybe, parang ganon. Because we usually tend to ignore small things. And the idea of pick up, I like the idea of picking up, because it's evidence of the ongoing life. Like we pick up things from the trash and everything, but we also pick up stories, pick up ideas. So that's the idea of picking up. And this picking up is small things. And when Yoji, my son, is small, he always pick up things like something that we don't see. So the idea of picking up is a good way to develop our life, maybe picking up from different people. Like when you talk about something, your father or something, I pick up some ideas, something like that. So this kind of picking up is like a fruit. You pick not pick up, pick down. So parang ganun. So,
Thank you so much for the questions, po. if meron pa dyan sa Q&A natin. That was the last question, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. It's actually for me being with children in the art workshop. I thought it was really difficult to connect with them since they're always with their gadgets. But when you give them a paper and a pencil, they almost always are ready to draw, and it's really notable. And children are usually interested in something conventional, usually with their favorite cartoon character or something novel or new to their eyes, and they would always ask, "Anong ginagawa mo?" or "What are you doing? Can you show me that?" And it's wonderful that our audience for today for your home exhibition is your son as well, and you make a really good collaboration as an art and an artist and an audience, a performer as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Mark Salvatus.
Thank you.
Thank you po. Viva XCon is an advocate of recalibration. Today's session with our speaker, Mr. Mark Salvatus, proved that the liberal nature of art and latitude of practice will eventually supersede isolation. Today onwards, we redefine space as art's universality proves to stretch farther or come closer at will, in clear opposition to rigidities of physical distance and corners of isolation. To wit, art can be offline, online, in, or beyond walls of convention. We rethink notions of home as it evolves from a space of material shelter and repository of feelings to a refuge of concrete works and ecology of art appreciation. To take art outside the home, however, is of parallel concern. When the walls are closing in and there's no door in sight, the best way is through the roof, reaching all the way up, elevating ways of coping, meeting people where they are. And as art climbs to novel heights, the artist must trace its steps and follow. So thank you po. Endless thanks to our speakers, Sir Mark, for an insightful morning. Is Yoji there po with you?
Nasa taas.
Can we have the audience
Okay.
there? Pwede po siyang tawagin.
Wait.
Thank you po.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Yoji. Yeah, but you need to take a picture.
Oh, I need to pee.
Yeah. Yogi. Wait lang daw.
Okay po. We will just have him say hi to the camera so that people can meet him.
Yeah.
Our performer, the icon of thumbs up and thumbs down in the artwork. Really enjoyed the home exhibition. And also we
Salamat.
say thanks to our audience for actively engaging in the talk and the Q&A. So we wait for Yoji.
Yeah. It's like the main star. Yoji, tara. Come. Say hi daw. Sit down.
Hello. Hi, Yoji.
Hi.
My name is Vin. How old are you?
6 years old.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you for joining your father in that home exhibition. And thank you for being here with us today. We say bye as well to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
po.
Bye.
Thank you po.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mark Salvatus, and for Yoji as well. Thank you so much. Maraming salamat, daghang salamat to everyone for tuning in. We will now have our next events here. Please don't miss this for The next Beacon 2 Saturday, we have at 10 a.m. as well. For June 12, we have Kalibutan, The World in Mind, exhibitions, not exhibitions, timing, and placing the present. Regional curators, Region 6, 7, and 8. And our head curator and moderator is Sir Patrick Flores. For June 17, we have museum management projections after the pandemic with Miss Junia of Singapore Art Museum and Miss Nikita Yingshan of Times Museum. And for our moderator, we have CCP VAMD head, Miss Rica Estrada. Don't miss this, everyone. See you. Thank you again, Mr.
Bye-bye.
Salvatus. Keep safe. Halong. Ingat tayong lahat.
Salamat. Bye-bye. Thank you, Bing.
Salamat po.
Hey! Ang mga uwak gahulat sang akon kamatayon, diyon na nga bag-uhon ang banas sang panglakaton. Numanang madangtan sa pinili kong dalan, kabay nga hindi pa ulihi ang tanan. Di nang mga sinya sa cross nga alagyan, ang talagog talang-talang, nagtalang-talang, gatalang-talang, dapa-dapanaga padayon sa panglakaton. Kuy iining mga bugat nga dalalon sa imo paminsaron kag balat tiyagon. Kuy iining mga bugat nga dalalon, nga dalalon, nga dalalon. Dali na kay maimo ta sang bag-o nga kalibutan. Ako namigo gugma ang hari sa duta ray ng kalibayan. Ako nga abiyan magiliuso sa kausa sang kahilwayan. Peace be with you, man. Right! Come on. All right. Yeah, pa 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 pa. Yeah. All right. Feeling the blue. Yeah. Mga abyan ko sa ining tinion, ipabutyag sa katawhan ang imong nga nabalan. Ang kaalam ngaging bungkal sa kadutaan, ipalaplag mo sa hangin ang unod sining sugilanon. para mga tubang hangkat sang henerasyon. Tanga mga katauhan nagtuhaw sa kadutaan. Ibalik ta ang balanse sang kalibutan. Mahimo ta sang bag-o nga alagyan. Padulong sa promisa nga katutaan. Ako lamigo, tugma ang hari sa tuta. Ray ng kalibayan, ako niya abiyon. Magliusa sa kausa, sang kahilwayan. Ang paghidait, yara sa imo, kag yara man sa amo.